Greetings, YouTubians, and welcome back to Wayne's Sharp World, where today I have a knife to give you guys a full review of that really got me excited the moment I took it out of the box. A lot of you probably remember that moment, and this knife here is none other than the GiantMouse Ace Nazca. I believe it's pronounced Nazca. If it's not, I'm sure you'll correct me in the comments. But nonetheless, the GiantMouse Ace Nazca. And before I go any further into this review, I'd like to thank you guys for tuning in today. If you like what you see, please do me a huge favor. Hit that subscribe button, follow along, and I will continue to bring you the content. I also want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by DLT Trading. Look them up for all of your knife and EDC needs. And be sure to visit dlttrading.com here to pick up this knife or any other knife that you may be in the market for. They have a great selection. They're great people. They ship fast. You can't go wrong. DLT Trading. But now let's talk about this Nazca. Actually, first let's go over some overall specs on this Nazca and then get into some size comparisons. We have an overall length of 7.48 inches, a blade length coming in at 3.15 inches, and a blade width at 1.13 inches. Blade thickness on this guy is 138 thousandths, with a blade material of M390, which you see on most GiantMouse Ace knives, so very nice steel to be working with. A clip point style blade, which is a very unique, one of the more unique clip points I think I've ever seen. Not completely way out there, but just really good, really unique, and stands out from the crowd. We have a flat grind with a handle length coming in at 4.33 inches, a handle thickness at 576 thousandths, a handle width of 965 thousandths, and handle material of some very nice green micarta. This is a right or left hand tip down carry with a weight coming in at 4 ounces. And as you guys probably all know, this is from the creative minds of Jens Anso and Jesper Vaxness over at GiantMouse. That Danish team kicks out all of their designs to the best of my knowledge. And we have a price on this model here, the micarta version. There's a considerable price difference in the two versions available. There is a micarta version, which is what we have here, which is coming in at $225. And then there's also an all-tie version, which looks pretty sweet as well, coming in at $285. Now, I do not have that tie version with me, but just make note, a significant $60 price difference between those two. So there's that. Now, let's take a look at some size comparisons here. This is, it kind of, I think when you're looking at it, you kind of expect it to be a bigger knife. But it's not huge, not small, but I wouldn't consider it a big knife. Let's start off with a couple knives that if you are a GiantMouse fan, you know these all very well. The GiantMouse Ace Biblio, as well as the GiantMouse Ace Grand. Very much a knife in the middle of these two. Let's see, we'll go pivot to pivot to pivot on this one since we don't really have a good way of lining up the tips. But as you can see, the Biblio is not a whole lot shorter than the Nazca, but it is noticeably smaller. Not so much in terms of just like width in hand, but just again overall length. And as you can see, the Nazca is a little smaller than the Grand. So a nice little size lineup there from, in all honesty, I think what have become probably my 3 favorite GiantMouse knives. They actually have a couple other that I also really like, the Sonoma, and then there's also one that I just reviewed a little while ago that I really did like. I think it was, I can't remember the name of it, but I think for all intents and purposes, these are probably my 3 favorite GiantMouse knives. The Nazca has really made a strong impression on me, and I have really enjoyed carrying this guy in the pocket. Let's also compare it to a couple other knives that are not GiantMouse, but I think will help kind of give everyone a good idea. We have the Spyderco Para 3, as well as the Civivi Elementum. So there you go there, guys. That's pretty much, it's actually bigger than both of these knives, but very much in the realm of same size there. So there you go. There's those. Now let's talk about this design, because this is definitely, I would have to say, this is probably the most unique GiantMouse design I think we've ever seen. Just in terms of blade shape and kind of some of the lines on this handle, you're not used to that. I think when I think of Vox especially, now I know it's not just Vox. It's almost disrespectful sometimes, I think, when we talk about GiantMouse and we say Vox and Vox and Vox and Vox. It's actually very much Ansel and Vox. And Jens Ansel is an incredible designer in his own right. So it's very important to mention both of these guys when we're talking about the design, because it is from both of their minds. But when I think of GiantMouse in general, I think of something a little more, smooth and maybe not neutral, but just a little more smoother overall lines that just, when you look at it, you're like, oh yeah, I get that. That's a GiantMouse. You don't get the same vibes with this one, and that's not a bad thing. This is not a bad thing, but it's definitely a new thing. It's not something that we're used to seeing from GiantMouse. From what I've seen, they actually got the inspiration of this design from Agent Aliens. This was named after, it was named in homage of the famous Nazca lines found in the desert of southern Peru. So, I'm actually not super familiar with the Nazca lines. I'm assuming that's obviously maybe thought of to be done by aliens, kind of like, like what you see in farms and crops and stuff throughout the U.S. and whatnot. People that, try and find proof of alien life. For what it's worth, I am a believer of extraterrestrial life out there. But now we're getting way off the beaten path. Let's get back to the knife. But that is where they get their kind of the design inspiration from, is somewhat of the alien side, and you get that. You definitely get that in this blade and this handle. I will say this, for as different as what we're used to from GiantMouse, it's also the handle and blade. They work really well together. It's a design that is very fluent in lines and make fluid, I think was what I was looking for, in terms of just how the lines work with the blade, and it looks really good. In terms of aesthetics, it is a winner for me. I wasn't 100% sure about it until I actually got it in hand, but I really do like the way the blade works with the handle. And let's talk about this blade by itself for a second. You got an edge coming in at 20 to 21 thousandths. So, nothing super, super slicey, but it's going to be plenty good enough to, get those cutting tasks done. M390 is going to hold the good edge for you. And the actual tip itself is not too thin to where you could probably get some pretty good work done with this tip. You have that nice GiantMouse jimping more up the spine that I think everyone's used to. And it works even better with this design because of the way that it has kind of that the belly there on the spine, how it kind of dips down and just gives you that good place for your thumb to go. Good amount of blade length there, of sharpened blade length, and I like how they have the thumb stud back far enough to where there is a little of it in the direction of the cutting path, but really not that much. I don't think it's going to really be a problem for anybody. And again, if you just got to be aware of it. If you just put your thumb here and then you can have all this blade length to work with. But not the end of the world. Don't really have any issue with that. If it would have been, farther up here, then yeah, obviously there's a problem. But I don't think anyone in their right mind would do that, especially someone with the knowledge and expertise of Vox and Ansel. But nonetheless, going into the handle, a very, very solid handle. One of the most solid handles I felt in quite a while. And it's pretty much all due to the full steel liners. You got some holes milled out there, so there's a little weight reduction. But this isn't a light knife. I mean, coming in at 4 ounces, by no means would I consider it a brick. But it's, it's not light. But I've never really put the weight of a knife. It's never been a big thing for me. It would have to be a real heavy, big knife for me to have an issue with it. This weight is completely good to go for me. The actual micarta itself is fantastic. You get all the nice grain of the weave in the micarta, precision milling everywhere on it. There's no rough spots, no ugly spots. I like the lines on the handle down here because the ergos themselves are actually pretty good. But there's really 2 ways to hold this. Now, just looking at this, you wouldn't think that there was really 2 positions here, but there really is a position kind of back here, which is a little more of a choked back position if you have to, reach a little with it. But for me, the main grip is right here to get your index finger right in between the cutout for the thumb stud as well as the end of the handle here. This does fit pretty nicely on your index finger. And then as you wrap your fingers down the handle, you do notice there's a spot here, here, and then here for your middle finger, ring finger, and pinky. And it does feel pretty good. I wouldn't call it hand hugging because you kind of have to get it positioned there the first time to know it's there. But once you do, it feels really good. I'm kind of surprised at how much I don't feel this wire clip. Wire clips, especially sometimes I feel like GiantMouse, I notice them a little more. The back of where the clip's actually bent here. Sometimes I can feel that more than I want to. But I will say, like, choke back in this position, I feel the clip a lot more. But when I move up here, I know it sounds weird and it's not that big of a difference, but I don't feel it nearly as much. I think some of that has to do with just, like, where exactly it's hitting in my hand and, like, where my calluses are, because obviously there's a little more sensitive area around that and whatnot. But no, at the end of the day, in this position right here, feels pretty darn good in hand. I do like the fact that it is contoured micarta, so you kind of have that roundness from top to bottom of the handle. You feel that and you notice it. And now we're going to talk about the most important aspect of this knife, in my opinion, and that is the first crossbar lock to come through on a GiantMouse knife. And I gotta say, this is a home run. This is an absolute home run here, the way they did this. This is the most solid feel of a crossbar lock that I've ever felt. It just feels very different. And it's something to where the only way I can really describe it is, like, here we have the full Doug Ritter. When I kick this out and I go to close it, you kind of get a little bit of, like, the clickiness, and there's, I don't want to say rattle, but you just kind of feel, you feel a certain, it's hard to, God, it's really hard to put this into words. But it just feels, I don't want to say flimsy, but it feels a little, I don't know, not as heavy duty as the crossbar lock on this Nazca. I feel like maybe the actual spring in the handle is slightly stronger, just slightly stronger. It's not too strong by any means to use this. It's actually, it's about as good as you can get. Before getting this knife in hand, my favorite crossbar style locks was the Hogue Able lock and then the TRM River lock. And those still are two of the best ones out there. But I've got to say, this is definitely, this may be the best. It really may be the best in terms of just feel and operation. It's extremely smooth, and it almost feels assisted to close this blade. Now, it's not. You just have to get just a little bit of actual wrist in it, and not much, but just, it is very smooth. If you guys saw any of the Blade Show coverage when they were talking to Vox, who was working at Blade Show, as he closed this, he did note how smooth this action was. And it's kind of hard to tell when you're just watching something on video, which again is even more of a reason why it's like, it's hard for me to explain it to you. You really do kind of have to get one in hand. But this is by far, I wouldn't say by far, but it's noticeably the smoothest crossbar style lock I've ever handled. And this is after just a few days out of the box, just a couple days. It was just like this out of the box, really. I think even just a little lube, maybe dropping a little drop of lube in this would help. But again, I haven't even done that yet, and I'm still kind of raving about how good the action on this knife is. And just the feel of this crossbar, a lot of it has to do with kind of, as you see here, it's very smooth and has a kind of a dome top, but then it also has some texturing on the side. Now, this texturing on the side here is all you need to be able to easily and smoothly close this blade. It doesn't take much, and that's what I really like that they figured out, because everybody else, and again, I just got done saying how much I like the Hogue Able lock, but it's got a lot of texturing up there that I think some people may not like. Some people may think it's too abrasive. I don't think it's too abrasive. I really enjoy it. But if you're looking for a real smooth feeling stud on a crossbar lock, look no further than the GiantMouse Nazca. It really, really is a different level of smooth, not just in action, but also just in feel, in terms of actually using the crossbar lock. It really is good. It's absolutely worth trying, and I think vast majority of people that try it are going to really like it. So I'm really excited to see what this does in terms of sales. And I'm also excited to see just what products in the future are going to have this lock on it coming through GiantMouse. And if maybe some people are going to, take note of this, because this is worth taking note of. It really is. Operation is great on it. The design is fantastic. This is one of the better knives this year. It really is. Maybe the design won't be for everybody, but I really can't think of a lot of other reasons to knock this knife. I thoroughly enjoy this knife. Love this crossbar style system, and as smooth as the action is, the lines to me are just that smooth. The more you see this knife, the more it kind of meshes with you, the more you get it and understand it, and it is a very good one. Really like that kind of brass accent back there on the back spacer. So this is a good one. One I would highly recommend. One that I really can't think of a whole lot of things to change on it. I do hope they keep using this crossbar style lock. I like this crossbar style lock more than any of their liner lock knives or frame locks. Not that they've been bad, but just the level of smoothness and the fidget factor that comes with this is very good. It's very good, and I think this is one that is going to have to stick around. I really do enjoy this knife. If you guys have, if you've experienced this, let me know your thoughts of it. Let me know what you think of this design, as well as your thoughts on this crossbar. This is, I think, the best one to hit the table yet. Really happy I could bring this guy to you guys. Let me know what you think about it. Hope you guys enjoyed this review. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and until the next one, I'm out.